And you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Happy Hump Day, everyone. Change of venue. I was thinking about going outside, but it's still a little bit kind of warm. But I want to thank you for being here. As always, I like to change it up just a little bit. Red Skeleton's one of my old favorites. We'll be talking about some of the old favorites shortly. And, of course, my Pledge of Allegiance is to the Constitution of the United States of America and to the republic for which the flag stands, one nation under Almighty God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I forgot to even put that up there. I think people need to realize that we need to we need to really get down to our basics, and that's what this show ultimately is going to be about. It's getting down to the basics. I'm also doing something a little bit different. I won't be able to see myself because I'm instead of using notebooks, I did everything up on the computer. As always, I try to give you the quote of the day. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Oscar Wilde. Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. You know, that's the thing, folks. In today's society, they want you to parrot what they want you to think. And so you're not allowed to think on your own. And that's why I thought this one was probably a pretty good one. And hopefully for the program. So let's get on with the show. You know, I was mentioning earlier that I had some old greats that I really, really, really appreciated. I did a program earlier where I read the Paul Harvey, If I Were a Devil. I can't make this stuff up. Great, great, great piece. It's like the guy was Nostradamus predicting our future. But, you know, there was also another great one in my youth that passed away and wasn't here long enough, I think, for the rest of America to even watch and listen to. But that was Andy Rooney. He was 1 in a million. And at the end of 60 minutes, he usually had his own 10-minute segment that unbelievably was never censored by CBS. He's probably the only one who could have gotten away with this. May he rest in peace. So I'm saying this and reading this from Andy in remembrance of him. Andy Rooney once said, I don't think being a minority makes you a victim of anything except numbers. The only thing, the only things I can think of that are truly discriminatory are things like the United Negro College Fund, Jet Magazine, Black Entertainment Television, and Miss Black America. Try to have things like the United Caucasian College Fund, Cloud Magazine, White Entertainment Television, or Miss White America and see what happens. Jesse Jackson will be knocking down your door. Guns do not make you a killer. I think killing makes you a killer. You can kill someone with a baseball bat or a car, but no one is trying to ban you from driving to the ball game. I believe they are called the Boy Scouts for a reason, which is why there are no girls allowed. Girls belong in the Girl Scouts. Are you listening, Martha Burke? I think that if you feel homosexuality is wrong, it is not a phobia. It is an opinion. I have the right not to be tolerant of others because they are different, weird, or tick me off. And when 70% of the people who get arrested are black in cities where 70% of the population is black, that is not racial profiling. It is the law of probability. I believe that if you are selling me a milkshake, a pack of cigarettes, a newspaper, or a hotel room, you must do it in English. As a matter of fact, if you want to be an American citizen, you should have to speak English. My father and grandfather didn't die in vain, so you can leave the countries you were born in to come over here and disrespect ours. I think the police should have every right to shoot you if you threaten them after they tell you to stop. If you can't understand the word freeze or stop in English, see the above lines or try to remember what I just said. I don't think just because you were not born in this country, you are qualified for any special loan programs, government-sponsored bank loans, or tax breaks, etc. So you can open up a hotel, coffee shop, trinket store, or any other business. We did not go to the aid of certain foreign countries and risk our lives in war to defend their freedoms so that decades later they could come over here and tell us our Constitution is a living document and open to their interpretations. I don't hate the rich. I don't pity the poor. I know pro wrestling is fake, and so are movies and television. That doesn't stop you from watching them. I think Bill Gates has every right to keep every penny he made and continue to make more. If it ticks you off, go and invent the next operating system that's better and put your name on that building. It doesn't take a whole village to raise a child right, but it does take a parent to stand up to the kid and smack their little behinds when necessary and say no. I think tattoos and piercings are fine if you want them, but please don't pretend they are a political statement, and please stay home until that new lip ring heals. I don't want to look at you and your ugly infected mouth as you serve me French fries. I am sick of political correctness. I know a lot of black people, and not one single one of them was born in Africa. So how can they be African Americans? Besides, Africa is a continent. I don't go around saying I'm a European American because my great grandfather was from Europe. I am proud to be from America and nowhere else. And if you don't like my point of view, tough. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was asked to send this on if I agreed or deleted it if I didn't. It is said that 86% of Americans believe in God. Therefore, I have a very hard time understanding why there is such a problem in having "In God We Trust" on our money and having God in the Pledge of Allegiance. Why don't we just tell the 14% to be quiet? Yes, folks, this was written decades, was read out decades ago, probably, I'd say a good 30 years ago. And, you know, it's very true. Political correctness, you know, why do we have to be politically correct? Why can't we just say that offends me? You offend me. And let's get on with offenses, okay? I just came across something earlier today, and I'm just going to go right out the door on this one. You know, there are people that invite you to a party. You get tied up in traffic, you're running late. They're, in the meantime, getting very worried. Some of them even get very ticked off. So I just came up and found something on the internet that I thought was kind of cute. It's okay to apologize. For instance, sorry I'm late. And so now I just messed up. I can't believe I just did that. Oh, goodness. But it's sorry I'm late. I got here as soon as I wanted to. I wanted to drive safe. I wanted to make sure I had all my ducks in a row when I left the house and didn't forget anything. You know, folks, that's kind of an apology, but it's not. And that's why I really liked it. But I opened up with, we've got to get back to our basics. So what's the difference between right and wrong? Good or evil? Conservatives and liberals? Republicans and Democrats? Wait for it. The answer. We need again to return to the basics. Democratic socialist progressives to this date are shredding the Constitution into pieces. Abortion, gun rights, freedom of speech, indoctrinating our children, removing parental rights for CRT, bending over for the gender dysphoria disturbed people of and in the LGBTQ community. The Constitution is the greatest document that's ever been written, and it was written by our forefathers, the founders of this United States of America, in and for the governance of man. And we need a major shift in personal responsibility. The fractured foundation of family is the number one priority of all good citizens and legal Americans to change in a positive direction, period. Gay pride parades? But who are the parents that are bringing their children to watch this? Seriously. Naked bike riding for climate and energy causes. You know, I was on a poker run, only one poker run, and we're riding motorcycles. And you think to yourself, you're out on your bike. It's a nice day. You know, the wind's blowing through your hair, getting beautiful scenery around you. You're out in the country. You're with about 50, 60 people, some of whom you don't know. And believe it or not, there was a disturbing moment on that poker run. See, you've got a sergeant at arms in the front that will stop the traffic. You've got another sergeant at arms in the back that they all kind of switch positions accordingly. To make sure that we go through traffic, you know, maybe in little towns, there may be stop signs, whatever, red lights, green lights, but, you know, to just let us pass through. And most people are very, very respectful, much like what the respect that we should show for the funeral processions when the limousine with the casket and all the family and friends are following behind. But in the middle of this poker run, there were not one, but two guys. They had to be buddies. They were both foolish. And I watched them as they raised their hands off their handlebars and they dangled their legs out, spread eagle to the side. And they're just sitting on the bike doing like 55, 60. Now, mind you, there's about another 40 people behind them. And like I said, I pay attention. I was in the back. I could see right down the center. And I'm looking at these two idiots. Number one, they could have crashed. They could have crashed, causing a few other bikers to run into them, so on and so forth. Number two, which is equally as important, it's the personal responsibility. Just imagine the cars that are passing by, and there are children, and they are easily impressionable. And there are children watching this mayhem, these two morons. But these kids think to themselves, wow, that's really cool. When I grow up, I can't wait till I do that. Granted, I was a daredevil. Everything calculated, by the way. Everything calculated. But some kids don't do the calculations. They just say, hey, I'm going to go home, get on my bike, go down a hill, pull my arms and legs off the bicycle, and lose control and break an arm or a leg. It's called personal responsibility. Even in passing at 50 miles an hour and people coming, and children may have seen these two clowns, and yes, I'm calling them clowns, doing this. It's the wrong lesson to be teaching. We have to be aware of the lessons in which we teach. So now that I covered the big government, I kind of got in this. I touched lightly on the gay pride parades because I actually saw so many people who were technically naked in the middle of the road. And then there are parents who are bringing their kids to these parades. Who are these people that, number one, want to dress up and dance for children? That's not proper. I think it's wrong. And should the children have to go through that? I don't think so. I don't think the children should be exposed to that. If you have a family member that wants to be that type of person, fine. But we shouldn't be lining the streets for blocks on blocks on blocks, supporting what we know to be a practice that's, first off, mostly unhealthy. I'm sorry, has anyone ever heard of HIV, AIDS, monkeypox? And then the list goes on from there. So what are we teaching our kids? What is it that these kids are supposed to be getting out of this? And why are these men, grown men, believe it or not, why are these grown men going back and forth? And I do mean this, going back and forth. Hey, Ruth, how are you doing? Why are they going back and forth trying to entertain these children? I'll tell you why. These guys, these grown men who think that they're women, who want to lie and deceive us, they didn't get enough attention. I've often spoken about that, by the way. Attention. They are attention seekers. They didn't get the attention when they were little children. And so now they are getting the attention. And now they're getting the attention, believe it or not, they're getting the attention of many, many, many parents of many different backgrounds. Let me give you an example. We have Muslims, Christians, and Jewish religious affiliated people of faith. They are coming together. In Maryland, there was a school board meeting, and the school closed it down to the parents. Something's wrong, folks. Something's very terribly wrong. Parents couldn't get in there to let them know sex should not be taught to first graders, kindergarten, second, third, and even fourth graders. And if be the case, it should, in fact, be taught at home. Most parents, I think, feel that way. I know my parents kind of felt that way, more or less. But when we got into high school, we learned biology. We learned that there are 2 genders, not 72 genders. We learn that men and women couple to reproduce and have children. So why are these people running around indecently, naked, running up and down city streets, parading naked, going to the beach naked? There was a time in America when we would call that indecent exposure. And it was against the law, highly against the law. And at the end of the Andy Rooney situation that I read earlier, the readout that I read, at the end of that, it spoke of 86% of the people were really religious people, and only about 14, 15% of these people were gay. And they are a very small part of our society, no doubt. But they sure have made an impact, and people are buying the Kool-Aid. They are groomers. That's what they are. The guys that are dressed up, entertaining your kids, are grooming them for pedophilia. You may as well just turn your kids over to Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, that's right. He's dead. You may as well maybe give him to his girlfriend. Oh, never mind. She's in prison for life. But are you getting the picture? Are you getting the picture? I don't know. I don't know if America's seeing it. But we are no longer an 85%, 15% religious-based country. We're about right there, split in the middle, I'd say, closer to maybe 60, 65, if I remember correctly, of Americans are really, sincere in their faith of God. And what is their faith of God? Their faith in God stands for their family, their friends, the flag, the firearms, and the sixth and one of the most important ones, farmers. I wanted to call this show the Flippin' Show, shit show, but I didn't, because it's all about the F's. Again, the faith, the family, the friends, the flag, the farmer, the firearms. But we are now looking at AI that's going to be farming for us. I'm not trusting it. Can't trust AI with the trains. We can't continue on the path we're on. I listened to a mother that said when her daughter was saying that she was going to be a quote unquote a boy, she took her phone away from that kid. Hardest thing she could do. One part of her wanted that child to have the phone in case the child needed her help and or assistance. But another part of her realized that if she didn't do that, then chances are, believe it or not, if she didn't do that, that this child was going to be more mentally, traumatically struggling with her sexuality. It's called tough love. That is exactly what that mother did. She gave tough love. We've got a lot of stuff in our news going on right now, but I want to reflect on this one here. I just heard this the other day, and really this ties in with our news media and everything else. When you are dead, you don't know that you're dead. It is the others around that are living that have a difficult time perhaps dealing with it. The loss of yourself. It's kind of like when you're stupid, we go through the same thing. We have a difficult time dealing with stupidity, with nonsense, or the lack and not use of common sense. So if you're still supporting the Democratic Party, knowing that these people are absolutely despicable, then I'll tell you what, I'm okay with being called a deplorable. Because if being right is deplorable, I'll wear that badge. But you Democrats, lefty socialists that are so hell-bent on just doing the corrupt things that you're doing within government, and I'm talking about all our leaders, so many of them, you're doing a disservice to the American people. And those of you that are voting to keep these mushrooms in office, you're part of destroying America. I guess a couple days ago, a gentleman from a pizzeria decided to throw some pizzas over the fence of the City Hall in New York. He was calling it the New York Pizza Party, simulating that it was kind of like the Boston Tea Party. But truth be told, the reason why this man was doing it was he was wanting to make a statement. Because apparently the Democratic Party are wanting to put all this strain and stress on quote unquote climate control for everyone, by the way. They're coming after your refrigerators, your dishwashers, your ovens, your air conditioners, you name it. They're going after your cars. They're going after your appliances or your equipment for the lawns. But what really gets me is they are expecting these brick ovens, these pizza ovens that use coal or wood to give that pizza a nice crust. And they expect those owners to pay $20,000 for this little doohickey, a kabobble of some sort, to help with the emissions control. And actually, they would like to put them out of business altogether. So it's either you pay $20,000 for this mechanism that supposedly is going to help save Mother Earth, or you could go to electric. But what they don't seem to realize, the Democratic Party doesn't seem to realize, electricity is produced either nuclear or with coal. Nuclear or with coal. I believe there may be some, believe it or not, that may even still use water. I don't know yet. I don't know. I should have looked that one up. I always think about the water turbines and the water, spinning the turbines. But just the same, they're so worried about the pizza industry in New York, and pizza really is fabulous in 3 cities in particular: Chicago, Philadelphia, New York. I don't care where you're at. The pizza is like a staple food. And I want to thank the Italians, all the Italians, that make such wonderful pizza pies. But why are they going after such a small industry that they are really going to literally put many of them out of business, when in reality, there are so many other things that create so much carbon in our leaving a footprint of the carbon footprint on climate? But the 2 people that I really laugh at the most is Al Gore, 20 years ago, 12 years ago, can't remember when that idiot was around, making this statement that, by the year 2020, Earth's going to be covered in water. We're all going to drown. The glacier caps are going to melt away to nothing. It's not true. And then you've got Greta Thunberg. Oh my goodness, she's a cuckoo clock. By the way, last week was the date she set in saying that Earth was no longer going to exist, that we were going to be gone. And of course, I can't forget, let's throw her into the bunch of loonies. AOC. We only have so many years left on this planet Earth, and we've got to get it together. So to me, Mayor Eric Adams, you're a Goomba. You are doing so many things that I really did not expect or think you would do. I actually thought to myself, he's a Democrat, but he's an ex-police officer. He's going to do the service of the city well as a mayor. He's going to be of good service. And no, he's not of good service. They're still low on the staff of the police. They're still not supporting and backing their police. And believe it or not, Mayor Adams is doing one better. He is actually sending these illegal immigrants that are invading New York, which is a sanctuary city, by the way, New York City. He's shipping them back to Florida, to Texas, and I can't make this up. He's even sent some back to China. He spent $50,000 to return 114 of these insurgents back, in some cases, even to their countries. What the is wrong with this boneheaded retired circus clown? And what is he doing for the New Yorkers of New York City? Nothing. He's not doing anything for them. I wouldn't live in you couldn't pay me to live in New York City. There is just not a chance that that would happen. So, getting back to what I was speaking of earlier, we need to return to the basics. The first, of course, was the Constitution. We have got to get control of it. But the second one is big government. The Democratic Socialist Progressives are for more big government by way of their wasteful spending. And we need to stop wasteful spending. How? No foreign aid to Ukraine for the squabble that those corrupt leaders have amongst themselves with motherland Russia. That would be one nice start. Those funds could have been used for our infrastructure of roads that are, bridges that are collapsing. $40 billion of the taxpayers' money going to the Ukraine? What's another thing we need to look at and change? To get back to our basics, we need to look at the national debt. The Democratic Socialist Progressives are ignoring it. We must reduce spending, cut departments, and get our fiscal house in order. Where do we start? By protecting American jobs. Banks loaning money for businesses, and stop taking our businesses abroad. We have seen through the pandemic, believe it or not, we've seen through the pandemic how we relied on everything right down to including Band-Aids. So, truthful information, ammo, here on the CDN, and that's what we are, alternative mass media outlets. The liberal media is an embodiment of the left-wing socialists controlling the narrative by their deceptions, mistruths, and prevarications of so many affluent people. Hunter Biden, Trump, Joe Biden, Clintons, you name them. We need leaders that are actually going to turn things around. Deportation is suddenly becoming a word the Democrats are really not liking, because we do need to have a massive roundup. We need to get ICE back. We need to get the BP, Border Patrol, give them their strength back. We need law enforcement agents across the country with a crackdown never seen before. So I wanted to talk about much more, but there is something that really, how does one put it? Something that I wanted to share with you, because this particular lady, I have to tell you, she really, Harriet Hageman, she really, really, really did a great job on this piece. So I'm going to now turn it back over to her.
The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized.
It's only 6 minutes long.
Mr. Durham, in reviewing your report, I sincerely wanted to understand the work that you did and decipher the various investigations that we have been discussing. The origins, the history, the backstory, the who's, the why's, the what's, the what ifs, and the how. I desperately wanted to figure out what happened to what was once our flagship law enforcement agencies, the FBI and the DOJ, to determine what went wrong and to evaluate how we can go forward from here. I have listened with great interest, hoping to find some answers to the burning questions of the day. And I have reached a few conclusions that I do not believe are subject to dispute or debate. Now, I truly appreciate your regard for the agency you have dedicated your career to. I am sure that as your investigation progressed, you must have been truly saddened by what you found. What you have exposed, however, is that we are dealing with something so corrupt and so rotten that no amount of face paint, deflection, or whitewashing can fix this. You have been asked lots of questions about predicates, protocols, the Steele dossier, the Australian connection, Mr. Papadopoulos, Mr. Carter, the FISA court, and Crossfire Hurricane, among others. Your responses have been enlightening, but let's get to the brass tacks. None of those people or documents or reports were relevant to the FBI when it identified Donald Trump as public enemy number one. What do I mean? The accuracy and veracity of the Steele dossier was irrelevant to the FBI. The accuracy and veracity of the reports coming from the Australian embassy were irrelevant to the FBI. The fact that the Russian experts in the CIA, FBI, NSA, and other agencies had no evidence of any kind of relationship between Mr. Trump and Putin or Russia was irrelevant to the FBI. And the fact that there was no verifiable evidence, such as testimony, documents, videos, or recordings of Russian collusion, was irrelevant to the FBI. Nothing, and I repeat, nothing that the FBI did was designed to show that Donald J. Trump was a Russian asset. That wasn't the purpose of the entire charade. How do I know this is true? Because they told us so. The very people who cooked this up and the ones who ran this entire operation. Strzok, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, Kleinsmith, Steele, the DNC, Perkins Coie. It was never their purpose to prove Russian collusion. And in fact, from the very beginning, they knew that no such thing actually existed. They knew that the entire Russian collusion narrative was fabricated by the Clinton campaign to deflect attention from her mishandling of classified materials and destruction of official emails. But they didn't need to prove Russian collusion. They just had to keep the investigation alive. And so long as they had a complicit press, and so long as they had people in this very body who has been here, one of the gentlemen who has been here much of the day, who would go on TV every night and lie about the smoking gun, they could further their personal and political agendas. Oh no, the purpose of Crossfire Hurricane wasn't to prove Russian collusion, it was to destroy Donald J. Trump. And they told us that with the text messages that are set forth on page 49 and 51 of your report, 49 and 50 of your report. And then if they failed at blocking Mr. Trump from being elected as president, well, they had a backup plan. They had their insurance policy, to use Strzok's terminology, which was to make it impossible for him to govern, to use whatever tools were available to taint his presidency, the legitimacy of his election, his ability to work with foreign leaders, and to make everything about Russia, Russia, Russia. And how has this corruption and rot manifested itself in our everyday lives, in our national culture, in our ability to solve the problems we are facing? It has destroyed some of the key foundations of this country. A foundation built on equal protection, on the belief that justice is blind, on the belief that you will be held accountable if you commit a fraud of the magnitude of what we have been discussing here today, on the belief that due process, justice, and constitutional rights are more than mere words. It has left a smoldering, hot, volcanic mess where the soul of this country used to be. All because a few people in the FBI decided they wanted to destroy a political candidate and ultimately a president and anyone associated with him. While these folks set out to destroy a presidential candidate and later a presidency, the fact is that they destroyed so much more, and that will be their ultimate legacy. One casualty is America's faith in our institution, and another casualty is the erosion of a justice system that is supposed to apply equally to all Americans, but that has been weaponized to protect the favored few elites, the Clintons, the Bidens, while targeting political enemies. That is the current legacy of the FBI and DOJ. Mr. Durham, here's my question. How long do you think that this country will survive?
Mr. Chairman, the time has expired. You can't ask a question.
A two-tier justice system that seeks to persecute people based on their political beliefs?
Witness may respond. Generally's time has expired.
I don't, do I respond?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think that things can go too much further with the view that law enforcement, particularly the FBI, the Department of Justice, runs a two-tiered system of justice. The nation can't stand under those circumstances.
Well said.
You know, folks, I couldn't have said it any better. That was Harriet Hagman of Montana. She replaced Liz Cheney, the Democratic Republican. And I'm glad, because this woman put together a wonderful piece that I had actually wanted to put together. But I think the American people need to hear this and hear this from the government official opposed to someone like myself. We all have been listening to this. We all have been paying attention. If you've been watching, so on and so forth, you know what's going on. And it's sad. It's sad that our country has gotten to the point where we're at. We have rules for so many people. The people, for instance, that were affected, and I'm talking good men, and I'm quite confident many other women as well within the Trump administration. But Paul Manafort, he ended up going to prison for a year. Roger Stone was greeted at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, Roger Stone's, I believe, in his 70s, mid to 70s, 80s almost. And he was greeted at the door by the FBI to be arrested. And CNN somehow had a leak. They were there with the FBI going into Roger Stone's home at 6 a.m. again in the morning. Rudy Giuliani, the mayor of New York City, one of Trump's key people, he had copies of all of Hunter Biden's computers knowledge, the motherboard, copies of the motherboard. And, you know, all these people now, technically speaking, they have tainted names. I'm not going to say they're destroyed, because the American people know. If you're paying attention, you do know. But, you know, it's the media. Again, as she said so eloquently, it's the media. But I wanted to go here and explain to you who she was speaking of. Adam Schiff got censored. He's like the 25th, 26th individual of the government to be censored. What he did is treasonous, and he should be held to the highest accountability of the law and the penalties for treason. FBI James Comey, Chris Wray, both of these directors have betrayed, lying to the American citizen, and utilizing the FBI agency for politicizing and weaponizing the agency, weaponizing the agency against the American people. Again, this is treasonous. They should be held responsible and accountable. Alexander Mayorkas, our Department of Homeland Security Secretary, who has been enforcing Joe Biden's open border policy, and Czar Kamala Harris, who's supposed to be in charge of the border, they have endangered the interior of this nation. From the MS-13 gangs, cartel, the drug trafficking, the children trafficking, the prostitution, sex, you name it. They're the ones that are getting rich alongside with Joe Biden, Clinton's, and I'm going to throw another name in there, Barack Obama. Horrible president. And, you know, the sad part about it is, if Kamala Harris, our VP, and I had to say this, I have to say this, she's a laughing bundle of stupidity. She's a disgraceful person in leadership, funding criminals, for instance, in Minneapolis by setting up a GoFundMe page for these animals, one of which was released 3 different times, supporting the Black Lives Marxist group, and then the 3rd time he finally killed someone. Kamala, thank you for conspiracy to murdering an innocent America at the hands of the criminal that you funded to get out of jail. Now, a new poll is showing that this VP is the worst in history. Between her giggles, uncontrollable laughter, which I think is a mental disorder, I think it's a nervous tic, combined with her word salad garbage. And believe me, if you've been paying attention and listening to this lady at any given time, she can just spin it and spin it and spin it and make no damn sense whatsoever. She has not accomplished one single thing. Kamala Harris is an utter failure to the vice presidency of this United States of America. DOJ Merrick Garland tied the hands of the Delaware attorney Weiss, who lied, and Garland lied in a congressional hearing not once but twice regarding Hunter Biden 7 years statute of limitations on Burmese money earned at $83,000 a month, avoiding taxes to pay IRS. Now, Mayor Garland knowingly and intentionally lied, which I know he did and purposefully did, then Garland should be impeached because perjury would constitute a high crime and misdemeanor. These are hands down the most evil, corrupt, deceptive leaders of our government in my lifetime, and it will be established in the history of the America that we know for the past 200 plus years. And each of these people, including him, they should be held accountable as traitors to the American people. And again, held at the highest extent of the law. But you know, we listened to them. We listened to them. I want to read a story about a professional basketball player who died suddenly of a heart attack. 28 years old, previously blamed COVID vaccines for his carditis after collapsing on a basketball court. A professional Dominican basketball player reportedly died suddenly this week from a heart attack. Oscar Cabrera Adames had previously collapsed on the court during the game and subsequently blamed the COVID vaccine for his damn myocarditis. He collapsed on the court during the game and back in December 21 when he was 26 years old. He fainted during the game in Spain and was transported to a local hospital. He was under observation at a hospital after suffering during the EBA league game that the team played against CB Centuria, which led to the suspension of the match in the absence of minutes for the first quarter. Basically, he delayed the game quite a bit. But he wrote in a previous post on an Instagram, I got damn myocarditis from a flippin' vaccine. I got 2 doses of Pfizer, and I knew it. Many people warned me. But you know, this is where they get you. This is where they got this man. COVID-19 vaccine was a requirement for him to play professional basketball, and he had no pre-existing health injuries. 26. I think he's 2 years, he would be 28. He died 22 years later. I don't know how to say this, folks, but we know that Fauci lied to us again. Now that man, one of the top on the list as well, for treason, for lying to the American people, for funneling money inappropriately through the government and different agencies of the government. The whole sad situation is this, folks. We have choices to make. We do have choices to make. And the choices can be very simple. We can either allow these people, and I'm serious, we can allow these people to control your life, tell you what to think, the whole 9 yards, if you want. But I don't know about you. I'm not going to listen to the CDC, by the way, which recently confirmed that the COVID vaccination increases risks of the autoimmune heart disease by 13,200%. That's right. 13,200%. You are more likely to die of an autoimmune heart disease if you receive the vaccination. People can call me silly. They can call me stupid. They can call me a nonconformist. They can call me anything and everything they want. Mask up? No. I'll take my chances with the good Lord. I'll take my chances with life. Why? If I get COVID, I get it. Hopefully I make it through it. That should have been pretty much I believe, across the board for anyone at the age of 50 on down. No, go to the vaccine. I know people that are very close to me that got the vaccine. I'm concerned. I'm truly concerned. But damage done. I can only hope and pray that it's worn its way through the system of my close friends and family to the point that it won't affect them in the long run. But listening to this young man and his story, having this problem at the age of 26, dying at the age of 28, and on an Instagram saying he knows he had to do this to play his game of sports. It's like all of us who have to keep a job. We have to do this. No, we should never have had that forced upon us. It's sad, but it's true. We are going to get to a point in our lives, folks, and I mean this, we're going to get to a point in our life. Right now is that pivotal point. We're either going to stand up for what we know works or what we know doesn't work. This administration is corrupt. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, the family of Biden, has literally sold America to so many other foreign countries for their own personal capital gains. Hunter Biden actually was charged with some crimes that were pretty big. And let me tell you about these crimes. They were so big. There was several other people. I believe one was a rap star that did 46 months for the exact same charges as Hunter Biden in prison. He did that 46 months. Hunter Biden gets a slap on the hand with misdemeanors. And now, thank goodness, they are putting together a special inquiry and they are going to nail this guy. They've got to nail this guy. They need to make an example out of this corrupt criminal family. I don't know about you folks, but there's no way at all. I could not ever vote for a Democrat right now for at least, I feel, the next 12 years. And why do I say 12? It's going to take about that long to get this country back on track. Both DeSantis and Trump have said they are going to put the squeeze on cities big time of all these people that don't belong here, that are here illegally, and they are going to, again, deport them. If they're criminals, they may get an added stay in a prison somewhere here. Chances are, if this administration and these loony lefts continue doing the destruction to America, that ain't going to happen either. It's just not going to happen. So, folks, all I can say is now's the time to buckle down. It's going to get to be a very, very, very difficult ride in the next couple of months. I said this summer was going to be a hot one, and seasonably it has been hot. Surprisingly, though, it hasn't been as quite insightful or inciting and violent as I had thought it would be. But of course, July is right around the corner. We're going to be celebrating the 4th of July soon. I want to tell you, I want you all to really think about the men and women that served in our military, that died for your freedoms. Your first major freedom is your right to vote. Your first major freedom is your right to vote. And you can have and pursue all the liberty and happiness that you want. But you've got to get your heads out of your butts and stop thinking that someone else is going to make the change, because you're just too busy to try to make a change. I thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you again next week. I love you all. And all I can say is, well, we need to get back to the basics And again, the back of the basics to me is getting right with a higher power. And I don't care if it's Yahweh. I don't care if it's Allah. And I don't care if it's Jesus Christ, Buddha, Hindu, many other religions that think of higher powers. We've got to do what's right, not only for the other people and our neighbors next to us, but more importantly, what is right for us. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Voraciously, from the bottom of my heart, I love you all. Thank you. Peace.
The song is for all Americans. I just wrote this last night. Well, some say I'm trouble, some say I'm extreme. 'Cause I love this country and the American dream. And I'll let no politician tell me what to do. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Yeah, I was raised country with work on my hands. Well, you respect your neighbor and you respect the land. And I'll let no president tell me what to do. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Yeah, my blood runs red, white, and blue. Yeah, Daddy taught me right from wrong. When to be humble and when to be strong. And I'll fight for freedom if that's what I must do. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Now Papa's passed while I was off to war. And this country's changing, it ain't the same anymore. But I'll fight for freedom, yes, I'll fight for you. 'Cause my blood runs red, white, and blue. Hope you like it. Keep the faith, brothers. Stand strong. Fight for freedom.